All right, so yeah, without further ado, it's our little pilot episode for an unnamed podcast project. I have no idea what the hell we're gonna name this
I don't have
podcast.
a name for it. Like,
I had a fucking honestly terrible idea for a naming project, basically just like a West Coast versus like Mid Coast thing. But I'm like, oh, that's so fucking stupid. Let's not do that. That's terrible.
just like we're gonna be debating back and forth.
Yeah,
Um,
two friends debating from two different time zones. No, that
about
would be absolutely terrible.
yeah. Um, did I? I may not have saved my notes about this, but it's fine because it's mostly just quotes that I could not believe that I forgot were in the movie.
Exactly. And the movie we're going to be reviewing today is a movie called The Butterfly Effect. Ooh.
Oh,
Spooky,
so
scary movie.
do you have so because I know you had messaged me about it. This was actually just a couple days ago. That's what got us talking about this. Did you have a history with this movie prior to that?
Actually, I have not. The only history I had was seeing the basement scene, the cheese pizza scene, as I have called it in
I
my
mean, I
notes.
understand. Yeah, you were seeking
on
it out,
on
and
it's a scene I saw on like the Sci-Fi Channel years ago, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? And I turned it on.
boy, I mean, like it's funny you say that because watching this, I was kind of no, I it's like a sci-fi movie to me.
You
It
know,
is
very much so.
that
Yes.
quality of movie, and I enjoy sci-fi movies. I did not enjoy this movie watching it recently, but so when I say it's like a sci-fi movie, I'm not necessarily saying that derisively. Although because of the movie, the way I think this movie sees itself, I kind of do
No, I totally
derisively.
agree. I totally agree.
But I do have a history with this movie,
Oh,
actually.
really? Okay, let's hear
Yeah.
it.
Um, so I saw this movie around I must have been middle school, maybe very early high school. Is it not that long after it came out?
Mhm.
Um, can't do you remember the year on that one? I feel
So
like
actually, it's part of the details here. It came out in 2004.
okay, so probably like very end of eighth grade for me, maybe right at the beginning of ninth grade, right at the beginning of high school, somewhere around there. At the time, I think I liked it quite a bit. So and by the way,
Understandable. I mean, it is a very I am 14 and this is deep movie.
but it's worse than that because hang on, because people always say that when they talk about this movie, and the thing is that another movie that is like I am 14 and I am deep that is also kind of silly, but and I kind of think this movie is in some ways, maybe not really, but in some kind of ways, probably is Donnie Darko.
I am so glad you saw the
That's,
similarities.
that's kind of so Donnie Darko, kind of a dumb movie, but it is good. Like it is good.
Yeah, Donnie Darko is a good movie.
I mean, and I went through because I was at first being the type of fucking loser I am. I loved that movie. I saw it around the same time. Probably saw it a little bit before I saw this. And I was so much that I showed it to all my friends. I was one of those guys that was really into it. But then you said you get a couple of years down the line, you're like, yeah, it's kind of dumb. But then I rewatched it again not that long ago, and I was like, no, this is still a good movie.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, I don't want to write Butterfly Effect off. Maybe I do, but not for that reason.
Yeah.
As a Donnie Darko love, because it's not that. But so when I say that to people, that I think Butterfly Effect is kind of trying to be Donnie Darko.
Yes,
they
I
usually
agree with that.
don't know what I mean. So I'm excited that you so enthusiastically see what I'm talking about.
Well,
I don't. Oh, go on.
Oh, you know what's really funny is on Letterboxd actually, because I've been I'm just been kind of a Letterboxd addict recently, and I looked up Butterfly Effect, and it has a very high rating on Letterboxd and IMDb actually. I think it has about a 3.5 on Letterboxd and it has a 7.5 on IMDb, which is like insane.
Yeah, I have a letterbox. I don't use it. I should. I bet if I spent the time to actually get into it, I'd really enjoy it. I have one of my best friends writes reviews on it, and she says it's a lot of fun. And I think I'd probably like it if I just remember to do it every day.
No, for sure. And the one movie it said they always have like movies that are similar to and movies that are similar in a series, and of course believe it or not, there are 3 Butterfly Effect movies.
I know there's another. I know there's a second one. I have not seen it, but
But the other similar film was Donnie Darko listed on there. So I guess we're not the only people to have seen the similarity.
Because this is Donnie Darko at home.
You know, the way I've delineated it is Donnie Darko is for goth kids and Butterfly Effect is for like normie like jock kids.
Okay, that is. I thought you were going to say it was for new metal kids, and I was going to argue with you. Like, no, Donnie Darko is Donnie Darko for new metal kids. Like different music, but it is. But this is for like frat. And okay, we got to do. I'm getting. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but there's a thing that really. I'm not. No one has to hear and say a bunch of things that are offensive because I don't really think they are for the most part. Mm-hmm. There's a weird thing in this. Anyways, let me get back to my personal experience. This is my brother, who is 10 years older than me, really liked this movie, and still I think really likes it. Mm-hmm. I think I really liked it at the time because I was almost like 14 or 13 or whatever, and then some years went by and I would think about it and that's in the text and it was a really stupid movie. Yeah. And then I would especially think about the end and I would just think, wow, that's so stupid. I've seen every ending to this movie. There's 3, I think.
Yeah, well there's technically I think 4 because the theatrical ending has 3 different, very slight versions of it. And then, of course, there's the very infamous director's cut, which is the one that I did the synopsis for.
That's so fucking funny. It's
great. But yeah, no, and I don't want to spoil it too much before we get into the plot synopsis, but if anyone at home who's inevitably going to listen to this, I would hope, watches this movie, definitely watch the director's cut. It is a lot better for pretty funny reasons.
It's more memorable, and also in its own way. Because the full disclosure, the version I rewatched recently, I rented just off of Prime, and it's not the director's cut version. Luckily, I'd already seen that many times in my youth. I remember the ending very well. But the director's cut ending does make more sense, as much as that means nothing in this.
Yes, and yeah, once we get to the ending, I definitely will agree. The director's cut definitely does. The director's cut ending makes a lot more sense for the actual like theme
in the universe that the movie has built. It makes more sense.
It does. It's. I have another funny film comparison when we get to the plot synopsis, but it's basically the opposite of a very beloved movie.
I'm excited to get to this.
Absolutely. All right. So without further ado, if you don't mind, let's get into some details. I'm gonna basically.
We're doing spoilers, right? We're doing a rundown of this movie and how fucking weird it is. Because it's fucking weird.
Oh, it is weird. In fact, I'll get some of the details now. So yeah, the movie came out in 2004. Movie was rated R, which is interesting. I believe the theatrical and director's cut both have nudity in it and several swears, so that's probably where most of that came from, because the movie's not like super hyper violent or anything.
There is a pretty extreme scene of violence for not for like like we both like gory B movies and shit, but for the type of movie it is, there's a scene of violence when
that's
the prison scene.
And animal cruelty too, of course.
That's rough. That's almost a hard. I think in a mainstream movie, for sure. I think that's an R right away. Almost.
I think so too. So the movie was actually directed by a duo by the name of Eric Bress and J. Mackay Gruber,
which is why it makes so much sense. Because there's 2 minds behind it.
Yeah. The movie was also written by them as well. They're most known for this movie and also writing Final Destination 2.
The best movie in that series. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. I like those movies. I think they're really fun, stupid movies. I did not think this was a fun movie.
Honestly, my favorite Final Destination is probably 3, but that's the only one that I've seen multiple times.
I think the gore in Final Destination 2 is so good. It's so like the deaths are so fun and so funny and so like just memorable.
Absolutely.
People are gonna think I'm so stupid when I say that. I get it. I think Final Destination 2 is a very good dumb movie.
Oh no, they're genuinely like pretty fun movies. Honestly.
Wait, did you say one of the guys' names? I'm not making a joke here. Did you say his last name is McGruber?
Oh no, his last name is J. Mackay Gruber.
Okay, I just wanted to hear that.
Maybe it's J. Mackey Gruber. It's one of those two.
But it's not McGruber.
Yeah, Matt Gruber, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
It was produced by a bunch of people, including Ashton Kutcher himself.
Of course. I
He
mean,
was the executive producer, I believe.
yeah. As soon as I saw that, I was like, oh yeah, of course. Because this is right the height of Ashton's star, right? This is still
Yeah,
that 70s show.
this is still that 70s show for sure. Yeah, I would say early 2000s especially. Yeah, 2002 to like 2005 was probably his like career peak. I mean, he was of course in other movies like,
Just Married.
Yeah, and then like Dude Who Stole My Car or whatever that movie was.
But this is a very ambitious film. I mean, it actually is ambitious
Yeah.
for him, but for Kutcher especially, which
he was also the main love interest in the remake of Who's Coming to Dinner.
I need to see that so fucking bad with Bernie Mac, right?
Yeah, with Bernie Mac and Ashton Kutcher and was it Zoe Saldana is the daughter?
Wait, how did you say her name?
I think it's Zoe Saldana. Is it?
I don't know who that is. I was trying to place her, but I want to see Guess Who so bad because that's what a horrible fuck. First of all, it's like, a friend of mine made an observation about that.
Mm-hmm.
Same syllables in Sidney Poitier and Ashton Kutcher, and that's why they cast them.
I've heard that story. That's so goddamn funny.
They're like, oh, they're the same. Sidney Poitier, one of the most groundbreaking, both politically and just as a naturalistic performer, actors of his generation. They're like, oh, who's the 2000s version of that?
Yeah, who's the 2000s version of Sidney Poitier? Yeah.
Of course. One of them had to overcome racism, and one of them had to overcome some vague sort of disability that just hovers over him.
Yeah, I mean, the main disability Ashton Kutcher had to overcome was being from Iowa, so that was his main disability.
Which, if you were making in Hollywood, pretty rough.
No, that's actually very true. Yeah. So the original cut for this movie, as we've mentioned earlier, in the director's cut, is a little bit of a difference. The original cut is about 114 minutes, and the director's cut is 119 minutes. The budget for the movie was $13 million, and the box office was $96.8 million. So quite the blockbuster we got going on here.
And just like for some context, I'm assuming anyone that listens to this probably a similar level of like into movies as we are, and I would say we both have pretty middlebrow taste. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, I have pretty middlebrow taste.
I would say that I do. But 13 million, not a huge budget. I don't think.
No,
and especially not for this type of movie. I have to bet that most of that went to Kutcher.
Yeah, because especially in the early, because this was a New Line movie. By the early 2000s, New Line, of course, I mean, had a year prior, Return of the King had just fucking come out from New Line. So, yeah, 13 million was a very low budget for New Line at this point. Yeah. Considering, I think the Lord of the Rings trilogy, I think have since made literally billions of dollars. So
I mean, I'm gonna tell you, I would rather watch this than any fucking Tolkien movie any fucking day.
Ooh, damn.
I don't. That's not a quality issue. There is more stuff in a movie like this that I can latch on to. I like B movies. I like nature. I don't care. I mean, I like The Hobbit, the book, when I was a kid. It's a good book for children, which is what it is.
Yeah.
Anyways.
This movie, of course, does have many things in common with the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but one thing it does not have in common with Lord of the Rings trilogy is its critical reception. Because when this movie came out, it got pretty negative reviews.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It has a 34% on Rotten Tomatoes. But as we mentioned before, a 3.5 on Letterboxd, I believe a 7.5 on IMDb, and an 81% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. So this is one of the biggest, and this is easily one of the biggest disparitions between the critic score and the audience score I've ever seen. Because a nearly 50% audience to critic score is like almost unheard of.
Well, my so I didn't look as in-depth in the numbers. I did read a few contemporary reviews and then also kind of current like user reviews or whatever it is after I watched it. My theory on that is that the type of person that's gonna like this movie, is probably gonna find it. Whereas I don't see someone who doesn't want to watch The Butterfly Effect. I don't see someone who's not going to like this movie, unless it's me, where I fucking paid $4 to get it the other night. Saying, oh, Ashton Kutcher in a movie. I don't know, how do they describe it on the box? Did they say it's a sci-fi thriller?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
If you pick this movie up, you're probably going to get what you want out of it.
Oh no, for sure, absolutely.
Um,
Yeah, and also I think a lot of older movies that have stood the test of time in regards to people remembering it or whatever generally
yeah,
do have a bit more of a positive reception than when
yeah,
they dropped, especially if it was pretty negatively received, which of course this movie, as I mentioned,
yeah.
was.
Um,
Um, because like I've went on YouTube, read various reviews online from everywhere from IMDb to Rotten Tomatoes, like I said, YouTube, Letterboxd, etc. And for the most part, like a lot of recent reviews, you don't see like overwhelmingly negative reviews. Like you do see a couple,
well, because how much of an asshole do you have to be to write like a scathing review of this movie with fucking Ashton Kutcher from
fucking nearly
2002?
20-year-old movie. Yeah,
You're
nearly
just like,
20-year-old
I
movie.
hope that this was.
Yeah, that's like ooh, that's nerd shit.
Psycho.
That's psycho nerd shit, exactly.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so next we're gonna get into a little bit of the trivia here, because there's a few little fun trivia facts here.
Ooh.
So the prison scenes in the movie were actually filmed in a real prison, with real prisoners too, for the most part.
I mean, I never thought that as a kid watching this movie. When we got to the prison, I did think I was like, oh, they did that on location here because which you got to say, give it to them. I mean, that's also was probably cheaper than building.
Oh, it was actually really funny as I was watching the special features after my first viewing and watching the movie a couple days ago, and they were filming the movie in British Columbia around Vancouver. That's a very popular filming location due to like tax benefits, and
sure.
this is where a lot of fucking movies are made. And in British Columbia, they actually couldn't film in prison due to Canadian laws. So like, well, we want to film in a prison, so let's just go right next door to America where prisoners are treated even worse.
And because you can understand why for a prison, why it's not very dignified.
No, exactly. So, but yeah, they chose a real prison in Washington State. So they only drove a couple hours from Vancouver to film this prison, or to film the scenes for the prison scenes. But
so since you kind of dropped the bomb on me, I don't mean to interrupt here. This is related. Excuse me. I did not know it was filmed. When you say with real prisoners, do we mean the actual characters who are prisoners in the film?
No, the extras.
Okay. I assume that's what you meant. I just wanted to make sure.
Because all the main prisoners and the prison scenes are pretty short for the most part, so there aren't like a lot of like very notable prison characters. But all the prison characters that have like dialogue, those are like actual actors.
I figured, but I felt like I had to be sure.
Oh no, for sure, yeah. Another fun fact: this was one of the most widely read unproduced scripts in the industry. So this movie was in development hell for a very long time. And it wasn't until Ashton Kutcher signed on as an executive producer of the movie that it was actually greenlit finally. So you can thank Mr. Sidney Poitier at Kutcher himself.
He was so sure that this was going to be he was going to be like, I'm going to show them what I can do.
Oh no, in the special features, he like talks about how seriously he took the like preparation of this movie. He literally did months of research on like mental illness.
I mean, that sucks because when I was watching it, I was thinking he's just being Kelso. Like this is just like this is. I'm sorry, he is like just kind of that,
No, for sure, absolutely.
Especially when we'll get into that when we get to the synopsis. There's a section of this movie that I have issues with.
No, for sure, yeah. And this is gonna be your favorite little piece of trivia because it blew my mind. In early versions of the script, the character of Evan was originally named Chris Treborn, which is an what do you think Chris Treborn, so Treborn, and then Chris, what do you think they were trying to allude to there?
I mean, it's Christ Reborn. That's all.
Yep, Christ Reborn. Yep, that's exactly it. But in the movie, of course, his name is Evan Treborn, which is just Event Reborn, which is a lot better because, like, you're really going to put Ashton Kutcher as a Jesus allegory. Like, come on, man.
I mean, like, that's a little sacrilegious, and also it does not follow through with any of the themes in the movie.
No, it really fucking doesn't.
Like, you can clown on some Donnie Darko stuff for being a little pretentious or whatever, or kind of adolescent, but the themes there do make sense, and they're clearly thought through.
Yeah. No,
there's no Christian subtext in like this.
No, like very, very little. But and then the next, this is the last main trivia fact here. There are references to the Ray Bradbury novel, or I should say short story, The Sound of Thunder, which, Butterfly Effect. Butterfly, of course.
Oh yeah.
And The Sound of Thunder. They go back in time and they accidentally step on a fucking butterfly and it changes human history or whatever. And the university that he goes to in the movie is actually named Bradbury University.
That's cute. Sure.
So kind of adorable.
Yeah.
And then the last little fact we kind of went over earlier is Ashton Kutcher did 2 months of research, including method acting, to get into this character. So
that's. I'm gonna say we were actually talking about this unrelated to the private conversation. Method acting, I think, and I'm not an actor at all, so maybe I don't know. I think that's bullshit. I think if you have to method act to get to a place, you're probably not that good of an actor. Also, I do stand corrected though, because I guess what I said to you was, you never see a method actor. They're always playing assholes, right?
Yeah, always pieces of shit. Exactly.
So I guess I'm wrong here. Here's an example of someone who did method for kind of just a normal guy.
Yeah, who's ever doing method acting to play like Bob Ross or like
or
like Mr. Rogers?
But like that would be nice, and not the Joker.
Yeah, exactly. Ashton Kutcher sent condoms to the character who played Kaylee in the mail every couple days.
There's no scene like this in the movie.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus. But yeah, without further ado, let's get a little synopsis here. So the movie starts with a quote and it's attributed to
It's
chaos.
not a quote.
No, it's not a quote, but I think it's hilarious enough because it has an attribution to chaos theory.
Yes, that's the thing. It's awesome. They say it, and it's not a quote. They write it like it's a quote.
Yeah. But it says, it has been said that something as small as the flutter of a butterfly's wing can ultimately cause a typhoon halfway around the world. And that is from the legendary chaos theory, who I believe was an apprentice of the pickup artist Mystery. That was
C theory.
Yeah, C.
And this is actually a good for me to get to a thing that bothered me on my rewatch list. Chaos theory is the idea that a very small, very, very small can have significant, decades-long, worldwide repercussions. That never happens in this movie. In this movie, massive things happen.
Massive things fucking happen.
Relatively small on a global scale repercussions. Not the butterfly effect.
No, yeah. It's not like Evan was sitting in class and he farted a little louder than he did before. That would change.
And then the moon collapsed.
Yeah.
Something bad happened to Evan and his peer group, and something relative to that follows them in their life, just like happens to you every fucking. It's a nitpick. I'm sorry, but that's not the.
No, it's absolutely a fair nitpick, I think. So the opening credits play while we see, and then after the opening credits play, we see a mental patient running through a hospital. That was just Ashton Kutcher trying to get into the role. He actually broke into the mental hospital to run around and act crazy. But he's running away from guards and he holds himself up in an office. And he writes a note to himself on a pen and paper to himself about going back to save her. Now, we're not entirely sure who her is, but I assume he's probably talking about Mila Kunis. I'm not entirely sure.
Would have been better.
Yeah.
You could have just put Mila Kunis is much. I'm being serious. She's too talented to be in this movie.
Oh, for sure, 100%.
Yeah. So I was thinking they could have just got. I did think they could have just had Mila Kunis. She would not have done this.
No,
she's done shit.
Yeah. Yeah, she was in American Psycho too.
But she does perform in that. Like she does really act in that. She goes full in on the camp stupid movie.
Yeah.
Which Ashton never does in this.
No,
he never goes all in on it, and nobody does.
No, there's a couple of scenes where he gets a little intense, but it's not campy or anything like that at all.
That's the only way you could have made this movie work to me. Because I'm gonna back up just a little bit to when we were talking about the reviews. A lot of the positive reviews or the sort of mixed reviews that I read would say, it's actually a pretty serviceable B movie. And I disagree, because that is not the type of movie that this is. This is not the movie it's intended to be.
No,
this movie takes itself, I think, very seriously. A lot of people said they didn't think so. I think this is. I think the filmmakers are deadly serious.
Very, very serious, very self-serious about themselves.
And And I think the only way to make it work would have been to push it into camp, but they were never going to do that.
No, for sure, yeah. Then after that scene, goes to a flashback 13 years prior to when Evan and all of his friends are about 7 years old. During this, I'm going to condense a couple scenes here. So several traumatic incidents happen to young Evan, which includes drawing a creepy drawing in class and being yelled at about for it. I still
a pretty good creepy drawing.
Yeah, like, pretty good creepty drawing.
Your teacher would be in reality. It's like a Rob Liefeld, which is not great, but for like a little kid,
yeah. Not only doing a creepy drawing, but one where he kills a Nazi. So that's pretty cool.
But I think it's unclear in the picture that it is a Nazi.
Well, it's got a swastika on the arm.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't even see what the problem is. The teacher's like, "Oh, good, you want to kill?"
Yeah, she's a liberal. Like, let's not kill fascists. Let's debate them.
Look, we need to debate these Nazis. Ever. Talk to your mother about this.
There's a woman actually played by, I believe, Michelle Obama, but not. Being forced to take place in a cheese pizza movie with his young friend. Being almost murdered by his dad, and then his dad is killed in the ensuing process. And after each of these events, he blacks out and can't remember what led up to the event. So that's kind of the main theme of his early childhood is horrible things happen, blacks out, can't remember. That is relevant at some point. The movie then jumps to about 6 years later. So he's about, 13, 14 years old. Several other events happen to him, including lighting a dynamite in a mailbox, which ends up killing a mother and child. His friend Tommy beating up someone at the theater, and Tommy killing Evan's dog by lighting it on fire, which is the event that we talked about with animal cruelty, which thankfully they don't show.
They did not actually put a dog in a bag or something,
but it's very clear what happens. And during this time, we see Evan writing in his journal, interspliced throughout these various scenes here, and he also finds his dad's pictures. That is relevant later on in the movie. But at the time, he's just like, "Oh, I just found a bunch of random pictures. Like, what the fuck? Like, Dad, you couldn't have a couple nudie pics in here? Like, come on, Dad."
Of himself?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Like, come on, Dad. I never even got to know you. Like,
oh God, Jesus Christ. And at the end of this little part of his life, his teenage years, he ends up moving away because there is a kid with antisocial personality disorder murdering pets and assaulting his sister. So needless to say, they gotta fucking leave this shithole town.
To be honest, realistically, that is your move. It's like if you live in a town like this, I don't know what else. Yeah, sure, get the fuck out of there.
Yeah, get the fuck out of there, because that is a future literal serial killer in the making.
This little kid, I mean, I know it's hard when someone is like a psycho, and I've never dealt with this. And that kid is such a little punk. Like, I mean, young Evan could have just kicked this kid's ass. If you look up the young actors in this film, they picked, like, I don't know if they did this on purpose, the goofiest little kid to be the psycho. And it's
yeah.
And he's wearing like a leather jacket when he beats up that guy in the movie theater.
You know what's funny is that the very young Tommy during the cheese pizza scene when he's just sitting up the stairs watching it, of course. That's cool. But
well,
he's I honestly thought that kid was Jake Lloyd at first, but I was like, oh no, he's too old to be Jake Lloyd.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was just like, or Jake Lloyd was too old to be him at that point. But yeah, I was just like, oh, that kid's gonna end up being the antisocial personality kid, and the kid, going around future serial killer kid. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So that one is pretty funny. We then jump forward to about 7 years in the future. Oh, I'm sorry. Evan ends up moving away and tells his love interest, Kaylee, that he'll come back for her in the future by putting a little note in the window of the van. And he's like, oh, I'll hit you up later. Bye.
Sure. Yeah. Sweet, I guess.
And then, of course, never comes back. I'm just kidding.
Why would you? I'm sorry. Why would you come back?
Yeah, no, really, right?
Kids. You were this time you were molested in, and your daughters were. I would never come back.
Right.
We were kids.
We then jump forward about 7 years in the future, where Evan is in college. Evans, where he's a psychology major, I believe, is his major, if I'm not mistaken.
Evans doing pretty well for himself.
Yeah, he's doing pretty well for himself.
Considering the trauma that he's been through. This is before any of the actual weird shit in the movie's happened.
Yes.
He's doing pretty well.
He's doing very well, including having a goth fat guy played by
I'm gonna sound like such a fucking dork. The only likable person in this fucking movie.
Oh yeah.
The only good performance, that is the only performance where I was like, this is like a type of person I think.
Well, you know, we were talking about
friends that look like that guy, that act like that guy. That's
no. His name is Thumper in the movie, played by an actor named Ethan Suplee, who, fun fact, was the fat guy from My Name Is Earl and the fat Nazi from American History X.
Yeah. I forgot
also,
he was in American History X, but I was My Name Is Earl. He is good in both those.
Oh no, he is. And also another little fun fact: he lost a shit ton of weight within the last couple of years, and he is jacked now.
Cool. I mean,
it's
also cool if he had it, but yeah, cool. I did not know that.
So yeah, he lost like 150, 200 pounds. He lost a shit ton of weight, and he's jacked as fuck now. So yeah.
I've always liked that guy, and I don't I don't really like American History X. I think it's a stupid movie, but he's very good in it. I do like My Name Is Earl. I was like a sitcom. Like I don't know if I watched it now, what I think, but at the time I,
Yeah.
So and when I realized I was in my recent rewatch, I was like, oh yeah. And then turns out, he is the only character in this movie that I think I recognize as like a human being that you would see in the real world, except for maybe the amount of sex he has.
Yeah, for sure. But no, I like Thumper quite a bit, and he also he's kind of a big guy, but he lays pipe. He can get it.
Oh yeah. He's laying pipe with his voice, and he's got like fucking cool. But he's got like Cramps posters up on his wall. Who are like punk and goth bands and shit. The Damned stuff going on. I'm like, okay, this is, and he does. Okay, I had to find something to watch honestly in this movie. Thumper has the most normal outlook on life I think of anyone in this movie.
Oh, agree with that. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's not saying a lot because most of them because all the main four characters and the kids at the beginning of the movie are all pretty fucked up in their own way.
Yeah, sure. I'm taking the movie at face value, these kids would be pretty fucked up.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do one quick aside before I forget. The dad of Kaylee and Tommy, the director of the film. Of the film with the CP.
Yeah.
Have you seen Liar Liar? With Jim Carrey.
He reminds you of interesting. Okay. I did not see that. Interesting.
I'm not talking about Jim Carrey. I'm talking about the character Jerry. Okay, in Liar Liar.
Oh.
There is his ex-wife is dating a guy named Jerry, who's really nice and really, and Jim Carrey's looking and he's like, he just seems kind of Magoo. And I watched this and I was like, oh, this guy acts just like Jerry in Liar Liar. And I was like, is that what Jim Carrey meant? And he said, oh, he's kind of Magoo. He's like, he seems kind of like a pedophile.
Yeah.
And I looked up some of the Jerry clips from Liar Liar and then watched the dad scenes there. And look like that is like the same character. They kind of look alike.
Okay, interesting. I'll have to look that up.
Sorry, I couldn't let that get away from me because it was all I could think about when he was on screen.
No, you're all good. And as we mentioned earlier, Evan is pretty well adjusted considering his past, but everyone else from his old town is pretty messed up.
Yeah.
But he doesn't quite realize that at this moment. But he, after a funny little scene at the bar where Thumper threatens some jocks who is harassing him.
Yeah.
Which is cool shit.
It's a good scene, actually. He's pretty cool in it.
No, it is, yeah. Evan and a girl he hooked up with starts reading his journals that we mentioned earlier.
Which, that's a no. That's, if I'm bringing someone home from the bar and they're like, let's look at your journals, and they start reading them, that's a no. I don't keep journals, but if I did.
Yeah. But yeah, like I said, a girl he hooked up with starts reading his journal and he starts mentally going back in the past. He's like, oh, the words are shaking. I can go back in the past. What is it? He's just actually like one of those like very vivid readers, like he's just he's like lucid dreaming, but he can read like that. He's like, oh wow, my imagination's really good.
I have a great imagination.
Yeah. After this scene, he drives back to his hometown. to find his various friends in interesting situations, including his friend Lenny, who became autistic after the dog killing scene.
I'm not sure what's like. If you endure trauma, you become like, I don't know. Like he's like catatonic.
Yeah, he's like he's catatonic. He's like, yeah, he's. And to be fair, he was in the flashbacks. He was kind of like a weird, quiet kid. Yeah, and then he becomes autistic. I'm not entirely sure how that works, but
like people are gonna think that you're making like a joke, but that is like what it's like.
No, it really is.
They make him like a non-functioning autist when he's an adult. I don't think that's how that works.
No, it's not. It's not how that works at all. The antisocial personality kid Tommy is recently released from prison and working at an auto shop, and Kaylee is working at a diner, still very clearly scarred from her past. And of course, Evan is like, "Hey, remember that time when we were kids and your dad molested you? Like, you want to talk about it?" And she's like, "No, I don't want to talk about it. Why are you coming back here? Fuck you!" And then she kills herself.
Yeah, she immediately kills herself. I'm sorry. He's like, "Why is she not enough?" And he's like, "Oh, I have a message," and it's Tommy, her brother, going, "My sister fucking killed herself," and it's like it's just very overwrought.
Yeah, and like you may think I'm exaggerating, but that's pretty much how it goes.
That is literally like the thing of the movie. Should we let's talk I need people to see, I need anyone that's listening to seek out this scene with adult Lenny. Because they make him, it's like he's like severely disabled because he's traumatized, and I mean that he's like a crude stereotype of a disabled person.
Oh, very much so, yes. Very much so. This is a scene that happens only in the director's cut. Evan goes to dinner with his mom, and they talk about his dad. And they mention that he had the same powers as Evan. They then go to a psychic, and the psychic tells him he has no soul. And he has no place in this world, which...
Yeah, I didn't get that on my rewatch, the psychic scene. I did not see that one.
Yeah, that was only in the director's cut. That was only the director's cut, and it makes sense considering the ending later, but
yeah.
So next scene here, where was I at? Oh yes, the scene where Kaylee kills herself.
Oh, right there.
Exactly, right there. And he gets it through a very awkward way. Tommy's like, "Hey man, what'd you say to my sister? Just let you know she killed herself. Bye."
Bye. Talk to you later.
Yeah, it really was. It was. This movie has a lot of very unintentionally funny moments.
Well, so what he says is, "She's fucking dead, and so are you," which is like, I mean, I get it, but like, your sister just died.
And like, yeah, knowing it. Well, to be fair, okay. So I want to give this movie a little bit of credit. So I think the way that they may have done that is because somebody who's like psychotic or has ASD, antisocial personality disorder, or APD. Sorry, not ASD. I would assume
that
maybe their affect would be similar to that. Maybe,
but it would be less casual. I say, maybe not. I don't know. It's a funny. It's very because it's like she's dead. Is he like you're dead? Like,
yeah,
you just stubbed my toe in the hall. You are dead.
It's like, yo, bro, my sister just killed herself. You're fucking next, dude.
You got it coming. When I see you, it's on site.
Yeah, meet me at the flagpole, motherfucker.
It is like that. The exact same emotion that Tommy says everything else in, which is like, yeah, okay.
It's pretty wild. So, and now the next scene here is where Evan tries in earnest for the first time to go back in time and change things. And the scene that he chooses to go back in time is the many aforementioned earlier scene, the cheese pizza scene.
All right, fuckbags, we're getting into it.
Yeah, we're getting into it. And he goes back to that specific moment, and he tells off the dad to stop molesting him and the daughter.
Yeah, he makes it. He dictates a GPS post to dad.
He's like, listen, you fucking asshole.
Why don't you quit being a gay pedophile and instead beat your kid?
Yeah,
bitch.
Yeah, it's like you better treat her well because you're gonna traumatize her, dude. Like he didn't think about that.
I'm gonna logic you into not being a child.
Yeah, and so in this scene, a 7-year-old rants at an adult with a camera on, about to make a.
And the adult also does not just like shut it down.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be dismissive or like this is not. They're just like, okay, kid, because that's what would happen in that scenario.
Yeah, it's like, okay, whatever. We'll talk about it later, but this is absolutely happening later. Like, it's like,
yeah.
After he's like, so you better stop, and he's like, will do, and he
okay, yeah.
And in this timeline, he stops molesting her.
And also like what he says isn't really like, not that there's any way it could be profound enough to like be respectful to this topic. It is like a smug nerd like lib voice. It's kind of what he's using, and it's just he's like, hey, why don't you stop traumatizing your kid? Because your other kid, she is a little jacked up right now. Okay, like that's the tone. And it's,
you know what honestly kind of reminds me of it? Honestly, I just realized this. It reminds me of like an anti-drug PSA from the 80s.
Yeah. Or like actually not even the 80s. It's like do you remember the non-smoking ever and show like a dog smoking, like it looks just as dumb when you do it.
Yeah, yeah, like it's like, hey kid, want to end up naked in my movie? Oh no, what are you, chicken? Well, if I'm a chicken, you're a turkey.
Yeah, and then it's like he's like, God damn.
Like, God damn, I just got fucking owned, dude.
This is a life-changing experience for me.
So after that, the timeline changes now. Evan then wakes up in the new present with Kaylee as his girlfriend in a dorm.
Okay.
In a different dorm, I should say, than the one he had with Thumper.
Here we go. This, and I'm not sitting here talking about things being offensive or problematic. This is just weird and stupid. The implication here, first of all, there's no reason that we should. Evan was doing pretty well previously. It's going to be a little second. This is a thing that I thought about a lot watching this movie. He's doing pretty well. Actually seems pretty well adjusted.
Yes.
Prior to this. He's got, his roommate Thumper, who's, Evan's not really a goth out guy. He's just kind of a guy. He's, in the universe of the movie, he's above average intelligence. He's studying a field he's passionate about. He's traditionally handsome in the early 2000s. He's gonna get a little mixed up because he's like in his early 20s, kind of.
Yeah.
But this implies, first of all, that the ideal life for this guy and for this girl that he actually kind of barely knows are to be rich, kind of mean, sorority and frat kids. And that is what happens if you don't get molested.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that was intentional on the part of filmmakers, but like that's the ideal way to be. And I guarantee you that the fucking guys that wrote this movie were not like that in high school.
No, I guarantee you the guys that wrote and directed this movie were the biggest fucking nerds in existence.
Yeah.
I guarantee you.
But they were like, okay, so if he doesn't get molested, and then he has a perfect life, and then he's a cool frat boy, and she's in a sorority, and it's like, this is cool to you? Like, this sucks.
Yeah, he wears a yellow blazer and a backwards baseball cap.
And the thing is, I suspected, was my memory of it, but then I thought, well, maybe he'll be a frat kid, and then it'll kind of suck. When I was preparing for my rewatch, and they'll be like, oh, this isn't me either. That doesn't really happen.
No, he's mostly okay with it.
There's a little scene where they're a little bit mean to a guy that they're hazing him, and then he's kind of like, all right, that's about the extent of it. But basically, the movie, I think, sort of posits that this is what Evan wants, that he has landed in his perfect world. Yeah. He's almost the opposite type of. It's not just that he's with Kaylee now, or that he's not. First of all, he's still conscious of the fact that he was molested as a child. So the way trauma works, he would still feel that. That still happens to Evan, even if it didn't happen to Kaylee.
Yes, and in fact, they kind of allude to that throughout the movie, because every time he changes the timeline, he still retains the memories of all the timelines that he has existed in, to a certain extent.
Giving them some credit, they do, but they do at least allude to that.
Yeah.
And this is Evan's complete personality. His whole personality would have to change for him to become this guy.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Sorry, that's all.
No, it's all good. And after he wakes up from his new reality, he starts having, I don't know if quite a seizure is quite the right word, but he starts bleeding out of his nose. He's like getting new memories.
When he gets into a new timeline.
Yeah, and it actually is a continuing trend throughout the movie because every time he changes the timeline, he has more and more severe of a nosebleed seizure. So
what the movie is saying here is that all of these new movie memories are getting crammed into his psyche, but he still has the old memories, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
they don't go away, so his brain is, I guess, rupturing, making more space for them. Like it would be a thing that would not be good for your
no, it'd be pretty horrible for you, absolutely. Yeah. So, but yeah, in this new timeline, as we mentioned earlier, he's an asshole preppy guy and is a bully to Thumper, actually. So, in the earlier scene when
Thumper, the only guy that's nice to him in this movie.
Oh, so that's the thing. I looked up on trivia earlier, but the guy who harassed Thumper in the bar earlier, the jock guy, it's a kind of alluded to in this timeline that he was the guy, Evan was the guy that harassed Thumper, which is why that Thumper does not react very positively when he sees him in the hallway for obvious reasons. And also in this timeline, Tommy got out of prison. So, and I believe he went to prison for killing the dog, correct?
Yeah.
Or did he go? Okay.
Yeah, the dog thing is what did it here.
Exactly.
Okay, to go back to when he goes back to torture Tommy and kill his dad, a thing that he specifically says going back is stop molesting your daughter and start beating your son.
Oh yes, beating your son. Exactly. Yes, exactly.
Now, because it affects Tommy's personality so little in this segment of the movie, doesn't really matter. Tommy's basically the same here as he was in the last timeline.
Exactly. But yeah, you're right. You're totally right. And Kaylee mentions it. He's like, well, don't give me any of that sob story shit. You ended up fine. And then she says, like, well, he was nice to me, but he was horrible to Tommy and took out all the abuse on Tommy, which, to be fair, in certain scenarios, that would happen if your primary ability to abuse your offspring can't be on one. You do generally go to the other.
But this also is, and it has to be this way for the movie to work out. Evan's incredibly good. The mistakes he makes when he goes back in time are not butterfly effect mistakes. They are glaring mistakes that a dumb person.
Yeah. Absolutely. But yeah, so Tommy comes back, tries to kill Evan. And in the process, Evan kills Tommy with a baseball bat, which is, pretty cool way to die in a self-defense attack, I guess. But
I love a Ramones reference.
Yeah. So yeah, Evan goes to prison. We're not entirely sure what he's convicted of, but I would assume that he probably got off in like second-degree manslaughter or something.
I don't think he had. I was thinking about this. Pretty clearly self-defense, and this is a guy that just got out of prison. I don't think in real life Evan ends up with the type of person he ends up at in this movie.
Probably not.
I guess I don't know.
I think it really depends. And to be fair, this movie was set in New York, and the movie was about 20 years old, so maybe self-defense laws weren't as good back then. Who knows? But either way, he ends up in prison. He does not do well in prison, which is obvious. He's a very pretty little white kid. He's not going to end very well in prison.
Yeah, and he's Ashton Kutcher. He's like a guy that would be pretty. He's also a guy that just people would hate in prison.
So several things happen to him in prison. He's sexually assaulted in prison, which that actual scene I learned was only in the director's cut.
Yeah, I remembered that happening in the director because I had this thing years ago. And then I thought, did that not happen? And I thought maybe I imagined that. So when you say that, when you confirm that that did happen, I'm like, oh my god. Yeah,
so in the theatrical cut, it's probably alluded to that they do, but in the director's cut, it's shown very clearly that he is taken in the night and sexually assaulted by one of the inmates there. He has his notebook stolen except for a few pages, and he makes one new friend who stereotypical Latino gang member. That's what I'm going to call him because he doesn't really have a name.
He's Cousin Mang.
And at one point, he demonstrates to this guy that he has the powers by stabbing his hands when he's in grade school, and he comes out with the fucking what he calls the stigmata, which
he's like stigmata. Yeah, it's racist. I'm sorry. I know it's the guy of that
No, it is. Yeah.
It's racist.
So.
But okay, he also is lying to this guy because he's playing with this guy. He picks up on the fact that his cellmate, this Hispanic guy, is deeply Christian. You know.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And then he sort of says like, "Oh, I speak to Jesus." And now there's no real indication that Evan believes that. Prior to this, as far as I'm concerned, he's lying to this guy.
Yeah, and as somebody who used to work in corrections, everybody says they have Jesus talking to them.
Yeah.
Whether they believe it or not. Because there are some people who want to be sent to like segregation right away because they don't want to deal with being in a cell with multiple people. So, but no, yeah, absolutely. And the Latino gang member absolutely is like, oh yeah, that everybody says that, dude. Like, I'm not fucking listening to what you have to say. But eventually, through the stigmata thing, the Latino gang member believes him, and they hatch up a strategy to fool the guys into getting his notebooks back. And I believe that strategy is goes up to their cell, drops a couple racial slurs, then offers to suck their dick.
He does say the racial slurs. Yeah.
He says many racial slurs. So it's just, it's hilarious. It's like
it's funny hearing Ashton Kutcher say
yeah. He's going through the encyclopedia of racial slurs to make sure he gets every single one in there. It's pretty funny.
He's like inventing new slurs.
Yeah, exactly.
And then he's like, all right, so.
Yeah, and he's like, all right.
I'm going to say the N-word and then I'm going to suck you off.
Yeah, exactly. And then he stabs him in the dick, which is really cool.
And that was when I was saying that there is a piece of violence that I think is a hard R.
Oh, no, that's absolutely hard R.
That's it.
Yeah, for sure.
For this type of movie, that's pretty rough.
Oh, yeah, for sure. He's able to read the notebooks just in time before he gets attacked again. And in this new flashback, go ahead.
One time, he ruins that guy, his cellmate, who helps him do this. That guy's life is ruined now because Evan gets to go back.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Presumably, though, I think that this guy is still in prison, and he is in a prison as people crowd around him, and he has just helped his cellmate kill him.
So actually, there's an interesting parallel that you're probably right on that. I'll get to that in a moment. So in this new timeline, the flashback, sorry, he goes back to when he was 14 years old to try to save his dog. And he gives Lenny a piece of metal. I don't know what the fuck it was.
Just a metal shard.
Yeah, and to basically cut the burlap sack open to save his dog, which happens. And he's like, Tommy, don't kill my dog, man. Like, don't do that, bro. And then he's like, okay. And then for some reason, Lenny just kills Tommy. It's never really clear why that happens.
So I guess being generous to the movie, I was thinking about this. We can assume that Tommy was pretty abusive to him.
Yeah, that is true.
When we look at the type of kid Lenny is, the type of kid Tommy is, and the little interactions they have, probably a lot of beating up, a lot of pretty harsh name calling from Tommy to him.
But it's weird because there's no other indication in the movie at all through any of the timelines and flashbacks that Lenny's even remotely violent. So it comes out of nowhere, and it's honestly probably the single dumbest thing that happens in the movie.
Dumb.
So it's there for plot convenience only. And in this new timeline, Evan wakes up. And in this timeline, Lenny is institutionalized after killing Tommy, of course. Kaylee becomes a drug-addicted prostitute.
Because she's also gotten her fate in this reality. And this time when she's gotten her face mangled by Tommy in the flashback, having a conflict with Evan, taking a 2x4, swinging it, Evan ducks, the 2x4 hits Kaylee in the face. Inside her face.
Exactly. And so in this timeline, she is not molested as a kid, but she is at some point picked up by somebody in a van and probably sexually assaulted, and I assume human trafficked. That's why she becomes a prostitute.
In this timeline, does the movie posit? I was not clear on this. That he has still corrected the molestation when he goes back here, because this is later on.
The reason that she becomes a drug-addicted prostitute is you see in like one like microsecond of the like flashback to the new timeline is she is hitchhiking to meet Evan again in his new town, and she's picked up by a guy in a van, and I would assume sexually assaulted and human trafficked, but you never know.
Or just given crack.
or something like that. Yeah, but actually, well, interestingly enough, actually, this is a thing I didn't notice until I went back in time. But the guy who picks her up in the van is the bald Nazi in the prison.
That doesn't make any sense.
Oh no, it makes absolutely no sense. So, but either way, I assume this guy is probably some borderline serial killer, very violent individual.
Yeah.
And at some point he meets her in the crack house she lives in, and this is a very hilarious thing I noticed, is that the floor in the crack house that she's at is the same tiling that was in the kitchen of my childhood home.
Well, you grew up in a crack house.
That is very true. A lot of crack was going on in my childhood home, but I thought that was very hilarious because I'm like, oh, that's awesome. My childhood home, as you like see people like just fucking nodding off in a hall.
Yeah, you're like, oh, this is really nostalgic for me.
Yeah, it's like, damn, this reminds me of my childhood. So, but he goes to her crack house, takes her out to a diner, is like, hey, I love you. Can we like change things? And she's like, rightfully once again,
fuck you.
Yeah, go fuck you. Who the fuck are you?
This is another thing where I'm like, this isn't I'm like, okay, pretty well done, because this is the appropriate response from someone who's in a situation when your psycho little boyfriend is like, what? I'm gonna save you. I don't know anything. Yeah. It's also saying crazy shit to her.
Oh no, absolutely. But yeah, except for Thumper, I would say she's probably she has the best like responses to everything, because for the most part it's basically like, go fuck yourself, like who are you?
Yeah, except for when she's a sorority girl, which also
that's true. Yeah, that's
sense. Yeah, that she'd be a sorority girl, which she kind of alludes to here. Like, yeah, I mean, she actually, as you know, as drug addict, sex worker, and this scene, you know, everyone recounts this to her, and she says something like, "There's one problem with your story. There's no way in this universe or any other I'd be in a fucking sorority," which is, you're supposed to be like, oh, but you were. But that actually is my issue with them being like frat boys and sorority girls.
Yeah.
So it doesn't, you
know. Yeah, it's hilarious. So Evan once again tries to go back because he hasn't fucked things up enough. He tries to go back in the past.
You think he'd figure out by now that he doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah, he's just trying, and he's eating shit in the process every time. But he goes back in time, this time to the moment when him and his friends accidentally blow up that lady and her baby in the mailbox. But in this timeline, he goes up to the mailbox, opens it, explodes himself, and Tommy,
the dumbest thing you could do.
Oh yeah, and Tommy is the one who pushes the mom and baby away.
Out of self-interest.
Out of self-interest, exactly.
He realizes that Evan and Lenny are fucking it up.
Yeah.
He's got to save face by being part of saving it.
Exactly. And in this new timeline, Lenny and Kaylee are actually dating, and Thumper's not the roommate anymore, unfortunately.
This is very bad to Thumper.
Tommy becomes very religious after pushing the mom and baby out of the way, which of course would make sense because, you know, you end up, a kid with antisocial personality disorder does something to save face, and it turns his whole life around. That's obviously how that works.
So that's what the movie's saying. I know, because it's a bad movie. But I was thinking about this. I was like, well, you know, so a kid like Tommy suddenly starts getting a lot of attention, and he's, you know, pretty damaged and probably hyper-aggressive kid. And then all of a sudden he's like, I'm a Christian now.
Yeah,
and he can continue to like that. That's not what the movie's saying. I realize that.
Yeah.
But there is a logic to that if you wanted to make that movie.
No, for sure, absolutely. And also the most important thing is that Evan wakes up and all of his limbs are blown off.
I don't know why his legs are not.
I don't know. Yeah, that was very funny.
Well, because like, so he gets blown up. I don't know how big was that's like what is it, a stick of dynamite?
Yeah, it was supposed to be a stick of dynamite. Yeah.
So I guess it would have blown off all his stuff. Because I was like, okay, it makes sense his hands are off, but he's legless. I don't know.
Yeah, at first I thought it was a firework, but they mentioned it was a stick of dynamite, so that would make sense that it would blow off all his limbs.
Okay, fair enough.
And then various things happen. Evan confesses his love to Kaylee again because, of course, you know, he can't stop confessing his love to this woman who rightfully has
no other shit going on.
Yeah.
In every reality, she has other shit going on, which should be a signal that maybe you just don't end up together.
Exactly. So Evan tries to kill himself in the bathtub. and then Tommy saves him. He's like, I can't even fucking kill myself, man. Like it's
this is so. I was thinking of this. I was like, no, I mean, I get that does suck for Evan, but again, he did this.
yeah, he did this absolutely.
Everyone else's lives are better. Maybe you just take the L.
Yeah.
If you're Evan, you've done this, and this is the only way that they all get good lives.
Exactly. He also finds that his mom is in the hospital because she never stopped smoking after the accident, which makes sense. You know, stressful event of your child's limbs being blown off. You just probably keep smoking.
Sure.
So then Evan tries to go back in time again to the cheese pizza scene again, because we haven't seen the cheese pizza scene enough. But in this new cheese pizza scene, Evan pulls out the dynamite that was originally used in the mailbox, and he accidentally kills Kaylee.
He's so dumb.
Yeah.
He's so dumb. And when I was thinking about this when I was watching, I was kind of joking when I said that Evan is just Kelso. Mm. But the kid playing young Evan, like when he's a little kid, I think he's channeling Kutcher's performance on that 70s show.
Yeah,
he's
for sure.
Way more hyper than Kutcher is in this film. Mm. And again, he's just doing like smart, like a voice that Kutcher doesn't really use as an adult, but this is his adult self having the kid's body, and he suddenly becomes like really smug.
Yeah,
I hate that kid.
No, fair enough, absolutely. So after he kills Kaylee in this timeline, he wakes up and he's now institutionalized. Oh, right. And he learns that because he goes to the doctor, because there was a doctor originally earlier in the movie. We didn't mention him because he's not honestly super important. No. But he's basically been tracking Evan's condition because they believe it's like a brain tumor or something. And he goes to the doctor in this new timeline where he's institutionalized, and he demands to see his notebooks. But he never actually writes the notebooks in this timeline. Ooh. And the doctor's like, yo, bro, shut the fuck up. We're going to give you pills. Can you like take a chill pill, man? Like, yeah. Goddamn, like, Jesus Christ, dude.
Get off my fucking back, dude.
Yeah. And in this timeline too, is his mom learns that he's not really getting any better. That's what the doctor says, and they're going to send him somewhere else. So
sure doesn't seem like, from their perspective, it wouldn't seem like he's getting better.
Yeah.
It just seemed crazy. Yeah.
Exactly. So then Evan's like, oh shit, my dad has his home movies here. So let me find the home movie real quick. So the movie goes back, or I'm sorry, like the movie goes forward, then to the first scene where he's sitting in the office, just writing down that piece of paper and looking at the movie. And this time he looks at and this is the director's cut version. He sees a home video of his birth, and he goes back there, and this is an actual real thing. He watches the video of his fucking birth, goes back in time to when he was a fetus, and chokes himself to death with his own umbilical cord as a fetus.
This is not the ending I saw in my rewatch. I remember this so vividly because for some reason I thought this was really good. This is the dumbest thing. And even before my rewatch, it stuck with me. I would think about it occasionally, and I go, that's so dumb. He goes back to the fetus and he's like, now I have to do, the only thing I can do is be a baby and kill myself.
Yeah. And so he kills himself, so he's never born. So in this scenario, everything's happily ever after. Kaylee and Tommy are both successful. They get, Kaylee gets married, and the movie ends with her smiling face while there's a sunset in the background.
And as stupid as that is, sorry.
No, but you're right. As stupid as it is the most thematically coherent ending this movie could have had. 100%.
The only one that is a satisfying. I mean, it still doesn't make sense. I still don't.
No.
I think it's the only ending of the endings that exists where you say, okay, I see what this is good.
And not only that, but I will say the other funny parallel I wanted to make is that this movie basically has the director's cut ending is basically the opposite of It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh.
Because in A Wonderful Life, it's like, oh, I wish I was dead. But oh no, you actually are a positive influence. But in the director's cut, it's like, no, you should kill yourself.
Yeah, you actually should have never been born. Holy shit. The thing is that's not, because the movie clearly thinks it's pretty profound, and I think it does. I think this movie takes itself very seriously. That's not a profound, and that is a good observation, because that's so these guys watched it told their life and they're like, yeah, but like what if it should happen?
Yeah, so it's
Wow.
it's wild. And then the theatrical cut, Evan goes back in time. But in this time
Boring.
the whole movie is it's like a birthday party for some reason. And Evan is like, "Hey, yo, Kaylee, you're like ugly as fuck. Go kill yourself." And she runs away crying.
So they say he's gonna hurt her. They have to be far apart.
Yeah. And in this scenario, they never get to meet, and then everyone lives happily ever after.
Also, he burns the notebooks, right?
Yeah, he burns the notebook so he can never actually go back in the past.
And like obviously there's workarounds. He still could, but you know he's now aware that happens. The notebooks are his primary communication. So okay, you can trust that. Like okay.
Yeah, it's also interesting because in this new timeline, the final timeline, he actually is still friends with Lenny, but he doesn't fuck with Kaylee or Tommy, which is interesting.
Which like I guess like you're pretty fucked up. You know?
Yeah, no, exactly. And then the very final scene of the theatrical cut is Evan is walking in the streets of New York City and he sees Kaylee just walking by, and he's like, "Hey, what's up? Oh, never mind. I don't actually know you. Bye." And that's the ending of that.
Which better, I guess. Not better than the fetus. The umbilical cord strangulation. That is the most thematically appropriate and the most like cohesive ending. There is another ending that I think is unused.
Mm-hmm.
Where he doesn't say, "Oh, I don't know." He stops and sees Kim. There's no hi. I didn't watch this recently. I just remember it. There's no hi back. I don't think this, and this might just be an alternate ending. I don't think it's in the film. I think that because I did listen to the commentary to this many years ago. There's little bits here and there that I remember. I forgot that.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that I remember what I'm going to say is, you know, maybe you could say like, "Oh, maybe it'll work this time." But the thing is, had they used that, that would the movie just be even more pointless than this.
Yeah.
The whole point of it, right, is that you can't. There are things you have to do. That you know, it's stupid. It doesn't have a track.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't. I don't think that ending has ever been in the movie. I think that's just an alternative.
I believe so. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's the movie. We mentioned our feelings earlier. This movie is absolutely fantastic, a classic, and everybody should watch it. I think you and I would both agree with that.
I'm not upset that I did it because I had fun doing this, and I'm excited about it. I was excited to talk about it with you. I paid $4 for this, and had I not been doing it for a project, I would have been annoyed at myself for the $4 I spent to rent it.
Yeah, I bought the Blu-ray for $5, and I'm like, that's enough. I think that's fine. I think $5 for to own a copy of this movie is about probably what people should pay if they're gonna actually buy this movie.
Well, and then you got it with the commentary on. So it'll be $4, especially for. And I don't mind renting a thing on like Amazon or anything for $4.
Yeah.
But I was like, this thing. It's not bad enough or weird enough to be that fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
But it is. I think the acting in it is some of the worst acting on a movie this level that I've seen. I'm 100% serious. Only good performances suffer.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I will agree with that.
I do.
The performances in this movie are pretty low rent. I'll just say that. Very like B movie acting. It's not great. It's not great.
But again, like the movie takes itself really serious.
Speaking of things that are very serious, let's get into a couple Amazon reviews that I found that I thought were pretty funny. So first review I found was from Elisa Vaughn, with 1-star review is just terrible. Okay, this was awful. No, I didn't finish it. Just terrible acting, terrible premise. What does the chaos theory, butterfly effect, child abuse, and time travel have in common? They're featured in this horrible little movie. Just terrible. Tell us how you really feel, Lisa.
Sure. Helpful review.
Oh, I thought that was pretty funny. Next one here from Ian. This is a 4-star review. Says this film was not critically acclaimed, but I still enjoy it. The aspect of time traveling or astral projection, however you like to think about,
those aren't the same thing.
Yeah, are you re-entering your own life in the past while underpinning the plot is not the core strength or theme of this film, nor is such travel going wrong an original theme. And though the title, referring to small changes having a big effect due to life and nature being a chaotic system, is well illustrated. What really hits home is how damage changes people's lives, how no one escapes some of it, and whether you really should wish for things to be different or not. Which, that's a pretty okay interpretation of the movie. Very fair.
That's very much like taking the movie at face value and going, okay, yeah, that is what it's about. Sure.
Yeah. Next review here is a 5-star review, and the title is, "If you want to use your brain, watch this movie."
Oh, fuck yes, this is my guy. My fucking boy.
The review description is, one of the greatest movies of all time.
Heather watching this movie.
Keeps you on the edge of your seat the whole duration of the movie. Ashton Kutcher's best film, hands down.
Well,
definitely Yeah, that's definitely makes you think after you're done watching it. Would recommend it to anyone.
It did there were things where I was like, I don't know about that. Yeah, sure.
Oh, Jesus.
Okay.
Rules. Oh, now that was by Morgan. Just by Morgan. And last review
rules, maybe.
Yeah. On the last review here is easily the most accurate review I found. This is a 1-star review by somebody by the name of Por, P-O-R. And the title is Great Movie. This movie is crazy good. Story is pretty shocking. USPS delivery is horrible. That pissed me off. 1 to 2 days late to deliver.
Amazing. You put that in their review of the movie?
Those are always my favorite reviews. There's the ones where
so Roger Ebert wrote that review. He was like, USPS no good.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Okay.
So yeah.
And this is a 1-star review, so like, what don't they like though?
They like the movie, they just didn't like the delivery. That's what I assume.
Yeah, they were like awful. Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. Think it's probably time to sign off here. Brian, do you have any closing thoughts for this classic film by Ashton Kutcher himself?
If you're a big Ash head, you're gonna like it.
Yes.
If you like Ashton Kutcher, you should watch this because he's not done that much since.
Yes. Do you think they ever should have done Ash versus Ashton versus the Evil Dead?
Yeah, of course. And or like, Ashton, Ash Pokemon.
Yeah. But yes, honestly, my opinions on this movie, it is dumb. It's fun. I'd recommend it if you can find it on Netflix or for a couple dollars to rent. It's fun.
It's fun to talk about. I like talking about it. I don't like watching it.
That's totally fair. I actually watched it twice, and honestly, on the second watch, I enjoyed it actually a little bit more than my first watch, believe it or not.
And to reiterate, when I first saw this movie, I watched it a lot. I really liked it. But now I'm watching it, I'm like, oof.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is our inaugural episode, huh?
Absolutely. But yeah, this is going to be Taylor signing off. Have a good night, everybody.
Yeah. See you guys around.